Hello, welcome to lesson 2.8, unit 2, lesson 8. We are moving into our study of inequalities. And inequalities are things that you should be familiar with from middle school. So this lesson is really a quick review of just the concept of an inequality and what those symbols mean and determining whether the statements that inequalities make are true or false. So we're going to move pretty quickly through this lesson since it is a review of things that you should already know, and hopefully this will just serve as a quick refresher for you. So in section 1, we're just talking about whether or not each of these numerical statements are true or false. So let's first review the symbols. So this symbol pointing to the right means greater than. And then if you see the same symbol with a line underneath it, that's greater than or equal to. Then we have the opposites of those. We have less than points to the left, and then less than or equal to points to the left with that line underneath it. All right, so diving right on in, you're just comparing the numbers and then looking at the symbol. So A says 7 greater than 3. Of course, we know that 7 is a larger number than 3, so that is true. When you're comparing two numbers and you're trying to determine whether the statement is true or false, you can consider a number line. Just sketch one real quick. The further to the right a number is, the greater its value. The further to the left, the less its value. So when you're comparing numbers, you can consider where those numbers fall on a number line. So of course, 7 is further to the right than 3, which means that 7 is greater than 3. All right, go through the rest of these and determine whether they are true or false. Let me do just one more real quick that has like an equal to. So equal to meaning that those two numbers could be equivalent numbers, meaning the same number, or they might be whatever the inequality is. So for example, E says 2 is greater than or equal to 7. Well, 7 is to the right of 2 on a number line. So since 2 is further left, then this is a false statement. All right, go through the rest of those real quick. Pause the video here and answer those, comparing whether those are true or false. All right, hopefully you've paused the video and answered B through H here on exercise 1. You can check your answers against the answer key when you finish the notes. We're going to move on to exercise 2. In exercise 2, it wants you to answer this question. Is the statement -8 is less than 4 true or false? Now, this time you're comparing a negative number to a positive number. So again, I encourage you to consider a number line when you are formulating your answer to this one. I do want you to think through this one and formulate a verbal explanation here. So I'm not going to answer this question for you in the notes on the video. I want you to think about the number line and how you could use placement on the number line to explain whether this is true or false. Do that now and then move on to the next section. Okay, here in exercise 3, I want to just draw your attention to this box with this statement here. So when you're comparing any two numbers, we'll call those A and B, you would say that A is greater than B is true if A lies to the right of B on a number line or above B on a vertical number line. So that's the same concept that we were just talking about in exercises 1 and 2, talking about how to use a number line to determine truth of these value statements. So for exercise 3, they want you to draw a number line to support whether these are true or false statements. I'll do the first one for you, and then you do B and C on your own for practice. So let's just start by drawing a number line. Again, a number further to the right is going to be the one with the greater value. So if I put 0 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, these are going to be your negative numbers to the left. and then to the right would be your positive numbers. -4 is over here, 4 spaces to the left of 0, and then 3 is 3 spaces to the right of 0. So 3 is further right than -4, and so greater than is further right. So this one is true. So sketch the number line and tell whether B and C are true or false. Pause the video now and do that. So again, you should have answered B and C now on your own, and you'll check your answer key when you're finished with your notes. Moving to the next section. Exercise 4 is giving us values to check to see if an inequality that's in algebraic form is true or false. So this is moving into the actual algebraic applications of inequalities, some more new stuff. So it says, given the inequality 3 times x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1, determine if this is true or false for the values of x. So they want you to plug in these different values of x to this inequality and then determine if you have a true statement or a false statement. That's going to look like this. We're going to take 3 times 10 minus 2, replacing x with whatever value is given in each of these examples, greater than or equal to 2 times 10 plus 1. From here, you're going to follow order of operations. So 10 minus 2 is 8, so that's going to be 3 times 8. And then over here, 2 times 10 is 20 plus 1. 3 times 8 is 24. Greater than or equal to 20 plus 1 is 21. If I were to draw out a number line and actually plot 24 and 21, I know that 24 would be further to the right. And so the statement that it is greater than or equal to 21 is true. All right, go through B, C, and D and plug in those given values to determine if these are true or false statements, still using that same inequality that's given right here. 3 times x plus or x minus 2 greater than or equal to 2x plus 1. Pause the video now, try B, C, and D. All right, just to save a little bit of time for you when it comes to checking, I'll go ahead and tell you the answers to B, C, and D, but you should have the work shown. B is false. C is false. And D would have been true. So again, you need to have the work shown for that, but check your answers. If you didn't get those right, then go back and rework those. Moving to exercise 5. Same concept here that you just did on exercise 4, but you have various different inequalities to solve for. So I'll go down here and do these more complicated ones for you, or look at one of these more complicated ones for you. But all you're doing on A, B, C, and D here is you are plugging in the value that is given into the inequality that is written for each of these to determine whether you have a true or false statement. It says to show your substitutions and calculations and tell whether these are true or false. So they want you to plug in these numbers, calculate your answer, and determine if you have a true or false statement. I'll do C for you since you got an exponent in there to consider. So we're replacing x with -2. Remember that anytime you're replacing values, it's a good idea to put parentheses around that value, especially when you're dealing with negative numbers. All right, let's follow order of operations. -2 squared is 4 minus 10 times -2 would give you -20. So since we have minus and negative, I'm going to change that to plus positive. All right, and then we have plus 1, less than 20. Technically that's plus -10 right there. And then we just need to combine all of our numbers on each side of that inequality sign. So 4 plus 20 plus 1 is going to be 25, less than 20 plus -10 is actually -10. So 20 minus 10 is 10. So our statement comes out to 25 is less than 10. 25 less than 10 is obviously going to be a false statement because if we were to draw out a number line, 25 would lie further to the right than 10. So 25 is actually greater than 10, not less than. Go through and do A, B, and D with those given inequalities and values, and then come back to check your answers in just a moment. All right, so to check your answers on A, B, and D, again, I'm just going to tell you whether they were true or false. A is true, B is false, and D is true. So make sure that if you did not get true, false, and true, you go back and rework those problems to see where you might have gone wrong. And make sure that it's not just a matter of your work, but maybe you just misinterpreted these symbols.